Chill out. What's happening, Renee?
How are you doing?
How you doing? How you doing?
Tuesday's my favorite day.
Is it what you been up to since Tuesday?
Yeah. Well, I've been up to actually visiting an out-of-town friend who's recovering from a stroke. So.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, the good thing is he's recovering.
Oh, that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Well, we got a full house. All the posse's here. What's up, Charlton?
Hello, and hello.
Talking to Mike like you're a pro, please.
Hello.
Come on. What's wrong with him, Alex?
Hello, America.
Alex, show that man what he should have learned over the last year. Okay, what's up, Alex?
I'm doing well, Armstrong.
Hello,
Always.
Mr. Conservative, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, Matthew.
Yes, how are you, Armstrong?
Oh, and Anthony, how you, brother?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Like that. See how he said yes, sir? That man was raised by good parents.
Yeah.
We have forgotten that language. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Not that I'm old, but I don't mind when young people are respectful.
Showing respect.
And show appreciation. We've gotten away from that. Charlton, you should take a few pages from Anthony.
Respect.
I don't think he wants to do that.
And listen, you all wonder why I'm so excited. Listen, I want to tell you guys, I'm so excited this evening. I'm beside myself. 1-866-801-8255, because you guys going to love the show. And nobody knows what the show is about tonight but me. Just me. But anyhow, now, Renee, you didn't know Larry Klayman was our guest, or did Nancy tell you?
Nancy emailed me just a little while ago.
You know, she's getting to be a little professional.
I got the email, too.
You got the email?
Appreciate her. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. What's happening?
Shout out to Nancy then.
Everybody's pulling their weight these days. But anyhow, Larry Klayman called me today, and he asked me to be a speaker at his event that he's having in Washington, D.C. soon. And when he told me what the event was and the role I would play, I told him I didn't want to have any parts of it.
Wow.
But I said, because he wanted me to say things that he felt he and I shared, but we didn't share them. But he said, well, have me on the show. Now, you know Larry Klayman is the founder of Judicial Watch. He is the one that gave us Paula Jones, Jennifer Flowers, and really was the energy behind the impeachment of President Clinton.
He knows where the bodies are.
He knows where the bodies are. And listen, I respect Larry Klayman. Tremendous respect for him.
I respect Judicial Watch as
well. Larry Klayman is Judicial Watch. But anyhow, you chill out and don't be disrespectful until I finish my introductions. You all need to teach him some manners too, okay?
Oh,
Not when grown people talking.
We like young aggressives.
Listen, when grown people are talking, you supposed to chill. Grown people are talking right now. Okay.
Got it. Noted.
You got that, Renee?
Right.
Yes, sir.
I put it in my file.
So, Larry Klayman, welcome to the show. Welcome to the broadcast.
Armstrong, hope you're well. Great to hear you again.
Now, tell us what you're up to as it involves our President of the United States.
Well, I don't think we're that far off. If I cough, by the way, I have a little cold that I picked up in Washington.
You're going to have a bigger cold before the night's over, but go ahead.
I'm sure that's probably it. But you'll warm me up, right, Armstrong?
Oh, we're warming you up now, because you can tell I'm raging for this show tonight.
Well, here's the thing. We've got a president. I mean, you talk about how we fought Clinton back in those years, and you played your role too. But we've got a president who I'm sure you will agree is 1,000 times worse than Clinton.
No, I don't agree with that. But go ahead.
Okay.
President
Obama
was a wonderful family man. He was not sleeping and banging interns in the White House. No, so I don't agree with that. But go ahead. It's the truth.
Well,
was that what Clinton was doing?
The most important thing to begin with Clinton. I don't think that was great, but that wasn't the big problem.
But the president was a family man. As far as we know, he was faithful to his wife.
We have a president who has shown his allegiance not for this country but to other countries, most particularly radical Arab countries. He's done everything he can to harm Israeli interests and American interests in the Middle East, I believe, and I'll get into it in greater depth if you'd like. But look at Iran right now. They're on the verge of acquiring nuclear weapons. This guy has done virtually nothing to stop it, and this is a threat to Israel and the United States. He is a socialist. We can agree on that, I'm sure. Obamacare is ruining the country. We can agree on that.
Wait, let me stop you. You speak for yourself, because I'm more than capable of stating where I am.
Okay, well, unless you had an overnight conversion,
No.
I wouldn't expect that you would have changed that much, my good old friend.
No. All I'm saying to you tonight, You're a lawyer. You speak for yourself, and when I speak, you know exactly where I stand. So please continue.
Okay, I'll continue. He's committed one, quote, phony scandal after another, whether it was Benghazi, whether it was misuse of the IRS, misuse of the National Security Agency to spy on us, sending guns and weapons to Mexico that resulted in the death of a border agent, and then having his attorney general lie about it. You can go on and on and on. I hope people will look at our website at freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org, to support us, if not just to see what we have to say. And we have a Congress right now who is incapable of doing anything. It lets Obama do as he wishes. And I'm not just talking about getting rid of Obama, but also some of these Republican leaders.
Whoa, what did you just say? You want to get rid of the president? He's voted by we the people. You want to get rid of him? Explain that.
I want him to resign.
You want him to resign?
I want him to resign.
And how do you plan to enforce that?
It was Jefferson who said, and let me go back in time to our founding fathers, before 1776, that when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. There is no liberty right now, Armstrong. The country is being severely held in check. It's being enslaved by a president who uses the National Security Agency to intimidate us, to beat us into submission, who's stockpiling weapons, so if the people wanted to rise up, they couldn't do it in any event. There's drones are being employed over our major cities. He thinks that he's king. He was elected. He has to take into account the will of the people. And when he does what he wants, and there's no Republican opposition, the people must rise up and demand his resignation. And that's what we're proposing on November 19th. Occupy Washington, to come to Washington in the millions, to stand in front of the White House, to give testimony as to how the citizens' grievances have not been heard, how they've been harmed, whether it's misuse of the IRS, whether it's national security, whether it's Obamacare, you name it. We have not had our grievances heard.
But why would you?
Let me finish.
Let me say no. Let me say this, please. Listen. You're not alleging anything that has not been said about any president. Why would you? This president was elected not just one term, but he was reelected in the last presidential election. Why would you want to undo the will of the American people? Are you saying they're dumb and don't know what they got themselves in, and you know better?
No, I'm not going to undo the will. We're going to be doing the will of the American people. It's time for him to leave town.
What makes you think that what you're doing? Whoa. What makes you think what you're doing then is the will of the majority of Americans?
Well, we're going to see that, Armstrong, in the end. We're going to see that, and we're going to demonstrate that. But this president has violated the Constitution of the United States time in and time out. He's a renegade president. He's doing what he wants. And the Republicans continue to stuff money into their pockets and let him do it because they're fat, happy, and rich. So it's time for the American people to rise up and do what needs to be done peacefully, legally, nonviolently. You know, Martin Luther King, let's go back in time to the 60s. We had a president. The president was not responsive to the needs of African Americans. And African Americans used civil disobedience, and they rose up and valiantly obtained freedom, particularly as it's evolved over time. You know, even if you're not African American, you can use civil nonviolence to accomplish a goal. Look at what Mahatma Gandhi did in South Africa, getting rights for Indians and coloreds in South Africa, and then he freed the Indian people from British rule. And India was a democracy under Britain at the time. So there's plenty of precedent here. Adolf Hitler was elected as Chancellor of Germany. Does that mean we should have left him there to kill 6 million?
Let's have Renee. Let me give Renee a chance. Larry,
elected by the Russian
Larry, this is going to be a two-way conversation. Let me give Renee Garfinkel a chance to respond to you. Renee?
Well, I think, Larry, you're all over the map. And I'm always very cautious when I hear people invoking Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, and Adolf Hitler in the same sentence. It kind of gets away from reason and just becomes inflammatory. I'm not too clear. Frankly, I have to admit, I had to go online and find out what your story is before the show, and I'm still not too clear about it. I understand that you were very instrumental in bringing the scandals that Clinton was involved in for many, many years. And it sounds to me like you like that tactic and you're trying to use it with Obama. I understand that you're somewhat even-handed. You had serious complaints about Republican administrations as well. But when one is really concerned about doing America's business, is it really a good idea to involve the country and the government in issues that are really peripheral when it distracts their attention from actually solving the country's considerable problems?
Well, you just answered your own question, Renee. We're not solving any problems right now. We're making them worse on both sides of the aisle. This country's sinking faster than a rock, and we are at a crisis point. And you saw that in the last 2 weeks with the whole budget issue and raising the deficit ceiling and all these other things. We have a government that doesn't function. I've been a lawyer for many years. The courts are so politicized, they won't touch anything that has anything to do with politics for fear that they're going to be retaliated against these judges. They'll never be appointed to a higher position. It's gotten worse since the days that I founded Judicial Watch in 1994. So, I don't think we're in disagreement here, but where we are in disagreement is with regard to this particular president. And let me be really blunt here.
No, I think we are in disagreement.
Let me be, well, I said we are in disagreement about this particular president. And let me be blunt, okay? Number one, with regard to the statements that I made a week ago, that he bows down to Allah and that he should put the Quran down and get up off his knees and leave the White House with his hands up. Those were metaphoric, number one. But what they meant is this. You have a president who has done everything he can to harm Jewish and Israeli interests. I believe he's anti-Semitic. I'm a Jewish Christian, by the way.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
It's not harsh. I think it's a fact. He canceled the National Day of Prayer a few years ago in the White House. He feasted Ramadan. He endorsed the Ground Zero Mosque. He wears a ring, and people are taking a close shot at it that says, "My only God is Allah."
Yeah, I've heard about the ring. What about the kneeling down to the Saudi prince?
Correct. He kneeled down to a Saudi prince who practices Wahhabi Muslimism, which believes in honor killings, killing your kids if they don't agree to be raised as Muslim. That is like bowing down to Allah. That's accurate. We got a president who sends our troops into battle in the Middle East and elsewhere with rules of engagement that say that they can't fire first. They have to wait for some Muslim jihadist to fire on them before they can fire back. Our troops are dying per capita in greater numbers in Afghanistan than in any American war to date in the history of this country. We don't have as many troops as we had in World War II or in Vietnam, but the number of casualties are greater per the total number of troops.
You mentioned your dismay with not only the president, and I think something that Renee mentioned, which is shows your credibility that you're willing to take both sides on. It would be one thing if you were coming on the airways today, say the White House, Congress, the leadership, we should protest to get them all thrown out of office because they're not doing their job. I mean, I think that people could look at that and say, you know what? That may be a point because we're getting hosed by both political parties. I don't understand the singling out of the President of the United States when the Republican Congress and the Democratic Congress are just as guilty, if not more, at fault than he is.
I don't think they're more at fault, no, because, it's kind of malfeasance versus misfeasance. Malfeasance versus nonfeasance, excuse me. We have an inert Republican Congress that, frankly, is just a money-making machine that raises money for its committees and its memberships. They're rich, fat, and happy, and they let Obama do whatever he wants because as long as their pockets are stuffed with gold, that's fine. There are a few exceptions like Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or Michelle Bachmann or Louis Gohmert and perhaps Trey Gowdy and Darrell Issa. I think Issa's a good guy. But there are a lot of people out there who are just in it for themselves. And I agree with you, Armstrong. So when we come to Washington on November 19th to occupy Washington in front of the White House beginning at 10 a.m., circling the White House, being peaceful, being in areas that we're permitted to be, we will be calling not just for the resignation of Barack Hussein Obama, but also John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Harry Reid, and Nancy Pelosi. We're going to get the leaders first. We want them to go first. And hopefully the others will toe the line after that.
Well, first of all, I'd like to just what you touched on. The Republican Party right now is basically being split in two. So that's why you mentioned leaders kind of like from the old guard faction versus this new Tea Party group that came in, and basically they're reinventing the party. And that's, I think, why we saw the shutdown. But also, going back to with Obama, is there one particular offense that you would consider impeachable, i.e. Benghazi, i.e. Fast and the Furious? Or are you just saying...
Well, the clearest ones are this. And everybody can relate to this. Doesn't matter whether you're left, right, center, whatever. Misuse of the National Security Agency to spy on all Americans, to get every one of our records without regard to whether there's probable cause that we're engaging in terrorism.
Was he the first president to spy on Americans?
Well, you know what, Armstrong?
No. The answer is no.
The
answer is no.
It was not the first, I'm sure.
Thank you. But the answer is no.
Retroactively, let's go back and hold them accountable,
But
too.
you can't. But now you're willing to hold President Obama to this standard.
Now, let me... From what we know today, and we have two lawsuits on this, class action.
Interrupt here for a minute,
you can see it
Mr. Klayman,
at freedomwatchusa.org. People should look at those lawsuits. From what we know today, he's gone far beyond the Patriot Act. The reason he's doing this, in fact, he likes the fact that it's out there, is to intimidate the American people in rising up and challenging him, because the American people know that when the government wants to intercept your private messages, they can destroy you. And that goes for everybody in this country, whether it's a private matter or a professional matter. You know, they are getting into everything. They're getting into our underwear.
So that has a chilling effect, you're saying?
A chilling effect, yes.
Let Renee make her point. She was trying to make a point. Renee, go ahead. You make it, Larry. Renee's making a point. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you. There are a couple of things that are important to look at here. Number one is the risk and the abuse of power is always a problem, no matter who's in charge. That's the nature of power, is to abuse and to gather more power onto itself, and that's something we always have to be attentive to, whether we're on the right or on the left. The ACLU is the defender of the individual against the abuse of national power, and that's an important thing. But to suggest that the way to go about it is to disrupt our orderly system for replacing our leaders. We have elections every 2 years for members of Congress. We have elections every 4 years for the president. Seems to me to be creating a tempest, if you'll pardon the expression, in a teapot. It's just not what we have to deal with.
I disagree. All good Renee, things flow from our dear really leader, Obama.
You know, I agree with you in principle. This is the first time in my life that I have ever called for a president to resign. And the first time, I think, in many people's lives that they felt the way they have with regard to this president. And let me back up a little bit. We have legitimate questions, and people call us birthers, as to whether he's a natural-born citizen.
Oh, Larry, not that argument. Come on, let's not that argument. Not tonight. I gotta go to break. No, I've got to go to break. We're gonna. Larry, I'm going to break. Larry, you're not going anywhere. Larry, you're not going anywhere. I'm going to break. Thank you. We're going to break. 1-866-801-8255. Larry Klayman, Renee, Charlton, Matthew, Alex, we're all here. Phone lines are open. Do you agree with Larry? Do you disagree with Larry? What is the solution? We'll be back.